Hello and welcome to another interview with Kalkyl. My name is Erik Lundberg and today I have Connor Blinman, Head of Games at Gaming Corps with me. Welcome, Connor.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Today we will talk about slots and market trends and the technology behind slots and much more. But first, could you begin by introducing yourself and also provide us with a brief background history of you and Gaming Corps?
My name's Connor Blinman. I'm the head of games here at Gaming Corps. I've been in the industry now for approximately 7 years. I used to work at Play and Go. I started my career in the industry at Play and Go straight out of uni. Kind of worked my way through different roles there. I joined Gaming Corps approximately 2.5 years ago, where I've joined as head of games to kind of put my stamp on the kind of development processes and the game strategy going forward for Gaming Corps. Gaming Corps as a whole is a supplier of casino games, essentially. So we produce an array of content ranging from slot games, table games, all the way through to more, I guess, arcade-style products like Crash, Mines, and even our latest Smash for Cash genre of games.
Yeah. And what made you choose Gaming Corps? What was the interesting part about Gaming Corps as a company?
Yeah, so it was such an interesting point in my career where I'd kind of got to this level where I wanted to make more of an impact at a business. And when I was approached to join Gaming Corps, they had an array of customers already. So there was a lot of hard work already done to sign all these big customers, these big names in the industry. And whilst they did have a few products which were very strong, there was a clear gap in their development cycle that they needed to improve in order to release higher quality content across the board, specifically in slots. So my background was always in slots games, and I was kind of brought on board to help improve the development process for slot games specifically. Whilst I am involved as well with the arcade games, that was one of the main reasons for joining. So when I knew that I could make a big impact at a company which was already growing, it was something which I took my chance with, and it's been really positive since I've joined. So we've improved lots over the last couple of years, and just massively proud of where we've come. We are also recognized there's a long way to go still, and I'm hopeful that I can contribute towards that continued growth.
Yeah. And if we're talking about the game, how to make a game, can you walk us through the process of creating a new game from a concept or an idea you have to a release?
Yeah, definitely. So usually, obviously, when you start a game, it can come in different waves. Either it could come from somebody's brainwave that they've had whilst having a shower and in bed, or it could come from a very specific business strategy that might come from commercial. For example, we need a really strong game for the Brazilian market or the Swedish market, for example. So the first steps are kind of to create that business strategy. Why are we doing it? What is the purpose? Who are we targeting? What's the growth potential of this product? Do we expect it to be kind of one of those medium performers, which is just going to tick us along, or do we expect it to hit the ceiling type of thing? Once we've got that business strategy locked in and kind of had a couple of eyes over it and kind of give it the thumbs up, we move over to market research. And just let's take, for example, we want a slot game for the Scandinavian market. We would go into looking at different casinos in those Scandinavian markets, speaking to our partners through the account management team, and gaining a better and deeper understanding about what makes a good game in that market. And then we would develop it further. We would create a gameplay document. That gameplay document would be created by the product owner, myself, the mathematician, to kind of hone in the kind of mechanics to really make sure we hit that target market strong. Then we get into the stage of creating the math model. We get the art director involved. The art director does an art mock-up. The artists start getting involved, start doing the 2D artwork, start sending it to animators. Animations will be created and start to be signed off. After approximately I'd say 2 months into this process, we would start the front end and back end development. And that would kind of coincide in a way with the math model being at a very strong stage where we're very kind of happy with the mechanics, happy with the hit rates and stuff like that. And then once development starts, we're looking usually like probably three months, sometimes even less, depending on the complexity of the game, to actually create that game from start to finish, including going through different milestones, different deliverables, things like certification, things like QA testing, and ensuring the game is really up to scratch before it gets released. So all in all, like it could range anywhere, depending on the game complexity, from like 4 months all the way through to like 6 months to create a product.
Yeah, quite many steps there and a lot of different roles.
Yeah, like it's really, I think a lot of people from the outside might look at a slot game and go, oh, that looks really simple, quite straightforward to create. But
yeah.
if you want to get it right in such a saturated market, you do really need to have all these kind of milestones that you want to tick off to ensure the best quality product. But yeah, so something that I'm super passionate about myself, getting this development right and kind of honing in and making it as refined as possible and as smooth as possible. But yeah, it's definitely definitely a fun part of the job.
Yeah, you talked a little bit there about the difference between markets like Scandinavia. Do you have a specific target group you are targeting with your games today, or is it very different? You have many markets, and do you make like a game directly to the younger audience or older generation, or is there something there?
So we have the great thing about Gaming Corps to start with is that we have multiple different kind of verticals, we call them. So you got the slots, you got the arcade content, and the arcade has lots of different subgenres of it. And the great thing is we can kind of have like this multi-strategy approach where different sorts of verticals will be targeting different types of markets. So as a whole, we're not necessarily targeting a specific user base with our product. We've just got a large range which allows us to really go granular as to who we're targeting. So whether it be a crash product, which is really popular in Brazil, and then tying that with a Brazilian Rio de Janeiro theme, will allow us to target that sort of player base, and that would skew slightly younger. Whereas if we look at maybe like the Scandinavian market and maybe what we might be trying to target there, we would take what would be popular there and kind of attack a market which is a bit more older. And really that's quite, again, it makes Gaming Corps really fun and dynamic to work at, because it means that every product we're trying to do something different for. And overall, I think what you see with our products are sort of that diversity. If you go onto our website, you can see a lot of different types of games. Whereas if you went onto a competitor's website, you might see a string of very similar games because they're trying to target this one particular niche.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you see a clear difference between what men like to play or women like to play? Is there a clear difference?
I would say somewhat. Like, I think there's definitely a change, not necessarily in the theme all the time. There is obviously themes which would definitely be more male orientated or more female orientated. But if you talk about like a very specific casino theme, like Egypt or Olympus gods or goddesses, you kind of got a lot of crossover between both genders in that sense. But when it comes to like a volatility or like the risk versus reward aspect of games, I think you would see a different sort of approach to those different types of games. So I couldn't say for certain that a man would be into a more volatile game. That obviously might be true for 90%, but there's still going to be a part which isn't, where that doesn't apply. And I can't say for certain that all female players would be into a more low volatility game, but it certainly does skew that way. And you can kind of see it in the themes that might get created on the market, the games that are on the market. You might play a fairy tale slot or something like this, and it might have a lower volatility than if you were to play a a war game. A war game will have a high volatility game. It naturally blends a lot better, you know.
Yeah. But do you see a big difference between what we here in Scandinavia like to play versus in UK, for example? Is it big? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I would say so. I'd actually say like it always depends as well on like the history of that country's like gambling experience, particularly with slot games. In the UK, for example, it's very much like it's such a niche market. It's such an interesting one because when you go to any pub or any club bar in the UK, you usually see like fruit machines and slot machines in those places. And those games usually are quite quick and easy to understand with very simplistic mechanics. And that sort of has taken the trend has kind of come online as well with that. And as players get older, their game, like what they love to play, kind of is nostalgic to play those sorts of games that they remember when they were in their 20s in a pub and they would just put £10 into it. You kind of go online and you see similar games. You're like, oh, okay, well, I remember this. I want to play it. It's a nostalgia feeling. Whereas there's not maybe that sort of history in every country. And if we look at Scandinavia, for example, particularly with Sweden and the player base there, they have grown considerably since the birth of it. I don't know when it was exactly, but I'd say in the last 20 years of online gaming, and it's just continued to climb and climb and climb, but they're always looking for something new, something innovative. Like they were at the forefront of online gambling at the end of the day. So their player base is very knowledgeable. Their baseline level of knowledge is very strong. And that means that when you look at the Scandinavian market, you can go, all right, well, actually, let's target a game which is really different and that nobody has seen before. And we can really innovate here and push the boundaries. And that is what makes targeting the markets so unique and so different at the same time. You always want to try to create a game which obviously targets all the markets. That's obviously the ideal. If you offer your game like we do to like tens of like jurisdictions, like we want our game to appeal to as many as possible, but that's also a hard task to do. And you will find that some of your games will perform really well in the UK. Some of them might really perform really well in Scandinavia. And getting that crossover is really key. And if you get that and you make like a game which is considered popular everywhere, then that's when you've really got something, you know.
Yeah, the hotspot.
Yeah, the hotspot. Yeah, but it's possible.
Yeah, you have seen that in the games. Just the last 5 years, it's going from quite easy games to really crazy high volatile games here in the Swedish online scene.
yeah. It's madness, but it's just where the market's gone, and it's really interesting to see. Like, I've been in here for 7 years now, and when I first joined, the volatility was very medium in general, and the complexity of a game. It was rare to get a game with more than 2 features. You'd usually have like your base game feature, and you'd have your free spins feature, and maybe your free spins feature enhances what was in the base game. But now it's not too uncommon to see games which has multiple types of features in the base game and the free spins. And like that knowledge just keeps growing. And I can imagine over the next few years, it should just keep climbing realistically, because people's base foundations, people's base knowledge is a lot higher. It's kind of similar. I compare it sometimes with friends about like how, and I wasn't around during these times for like when the movies first started, but when the movies first started, they were very simplistic in their movie direction, the sound, the plot line. And then once you start to build up that narrative understanding and level of movies, you can start being a bit crazy with the direction, a bit crazy with the soundtrack, like multiple timelines jumping around in the narrative. And that's what you go to the movies now to see, really complex, high intensity dramas. And I imagine maybe the slots and the entertainment for iGaming will go similarly.
Yeah, so more like Christopher Nolan slots.
Yeah.
And one interesting market, a very big market, is Asia. But I don't think they are into slots that much. Or how can you develop a game that will be big in Asia, for example? What do
It's
they
a very
like?
interesting one. Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
that market is probably one of our smallest markets as well. So I would say they are not huge on slot games. From my understanding at Play and Go previously, they were very big on video bingo, particularly in the likes of Philippines. They were huge on video bingo. I remember creating a product which was for like the Indian market, which had like the Indian gods and stuff like that. Performance was okay, but again, it's not something necessarily which resonates with them right now as much as the European, the US, and LATAM. So I think for them, it's that they've got their niche sort of games that they play. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like one where you can kind of like shoot fish in the ocean, and the fish are swimming by the screen. I remember those being really big once upon a time, but yeah, like I think as the world is becoming a singular place more so than individual markets, with like the rise of social media and stuff like this, you'll start finding trends will transverse all markets, I feel. So I think it's strong. But at the end of the day, it's really, I think, quite a good thing for gaming corps to have multiple different verticals, and
Yeah.
therefore that crash game mechanic might really fly in Asia, like it just has now grown massively in Africa. So yeah, it's definitely a market which we keep our eye on to see what sort of market trends are happening over there.
Yeah. We have already touched on this, but and it's a quite hard question because the markets are quite different. But what type of slots and casino games are most popular right now, do you think?
So I think definitely like the hold and win style games, I think are still really big. There's a lot of markets where if you just slap a hold and win mechanic or the hold and win wording onto the game title, you're going to get a lot more clicks from players. At the end of the day, the players are a bit conservative still, and they want to understand things quickly. And with a hold and win style game, you will. And I think that trend will just keep snowballing and growing and growing. There's a growing trend at the moment of like triple bonus games, where you got the reels and then you got like 3 pots above the reels, and you will collect stuff into the pots, and the pot may or may not trigger the feature. Those sorts of games are growing massively this year, and I'm sure they'll keep growing into 2025. I think that's sort of the trend that we're seeing. Aside from slots, you've got lots of arcade style games which have grown in popularity. We've obviously had the Crash games growing since probably 2022 and continuing to grow year on year. I think at the moment there is a gap still for the next big thing for arcade content. We've got lots of innovative ideas coming out next year for this sort of thing, just to try to take the market head on and just be like, all right, well, we're going to be the creators of something new, and we want to show everybody that we can be that front runner when it comes to innovation.
Mm.
So I think you've got to be innovative to stay on top of the market at the end of the day. And if you're not, and you're just copying and you're following, don't get me wrong, it's a great way to build a foundation layer of development understanding. But when it comes to pushing on to be that next big thing, you've got to be innovative.
Yeah. And how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in the online gaming industry? What do you do there?
So I've got different contacts in different companies, and we discuss things about how development's happening, and to ensure that I'm staying on top of not just what we understand to be the best, but also what our competitors understand to be the best. So I think that's super important to just have like industry contacts and stuff like this. Obviously, industry news is getting it from LinkedIn or news websites to just understand maybe what's being used, how development speeds are happening, understanding from other interviews or conversations, how quick they're developing it and how they're doing that quick. Obviously, there's a massive growing trend at the moment for AI technology. We are using AI technology within our development process, particularly with the art concept style. Art concept phase. So rather than spending 2-3 months on an art concept phase, you can very quickly get that down to about 2 or 3 days at most, and that obviously speeds up our time to market a lot stronger than previously. And then obviously with AI, there's conversations about how can we use it for our front end development, our back end development, our analysis for data analysis and stuff like this. So I think what we should be seeing is AI technology kind of taking over a lot of the parts to reduce the time to market even more so than what we're at the moment. So yeah, like I think it's definitely something which we keep our eye on to understand.
Yeah, and it's always you talked about innovation. It's of course really important if you are an innovation company and you put out a new game that's never been seen before. It's of course very very good for the company.
Yeah.
But there is always a balance between innovation and player expectation, I think, when you create a new game. How do you know what the players want? Is it the same like you told us now, or is it a different process?
Yeah, like it's definitely hard to understand. I think a lot of players are different at the end of the day. You or I might play and sit down and want to play a completely different game that evening. Me and my dad might play a completely different game. Like me and my partner would also maybe play a different game. So it's really quite hard to generalize in a way to get an understanding about that. But so what I would say to answer your question really is that creating diversity is really key at the end of the day. And if you want to stand out in a saturated market, you can't just release and follow the trends. You have to diversify and ensure that you are kind of appealing to demographics that maybe haven't been appealed to yet. There's a new wave of players coming through at the end of the day at the moment. Younger generations get older all the time, and older generations get older all the time as well. So disposable income and that sort of trend of who has the most disposable income at the moment, the 30, 35 to 40-year-olds of today are different to who they were 10 years ago. So I think it's really important to ensure that you are understanding what that 30-year-old wants today compared to what that 30-year-old wanted 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they would have wanted a really simplistic fruit game with 10 pay lines and a free spins feature with a times 3 multiplier. But nowadays, that 30-year-old has grown up with Xbox, PlayStation video games, really complex first-person shooters and stuff like that, like different sorts of games that haven't necessarily been done yet on iGaming. So yeah, I think we can definitely look at what is currently growing and what age demographics growing to be the highest valuable players at the moment, and then get an understanding as to what they want and go from there really.
Yeah. What do you think can be the next big thing in online gaming? Is it a kind of a mix between those, like first-person shooter games and or what do you think?
So like I hope that we next year are going to start to basically be targeting the next big thing. You've got to take risks at the end of the day to create that next big thing. The game might be released, it might not be successful, or the game could release and it could be absolutely massive. The key with those sorts of next big things is just an understanding internally and externally that there's a risk being taken there to create that next big thing. What it might be is obviously impossible to predict, but we can definitely look at what trends have been growing to hopefully capitalize on what will be the next big thing. At the moment, obviously, there's a big, strong push towards like social gaming, community-driven games in general and stuff like that. Like the Crash games obviously have shown that it's quite popular to be playing within the same lobby. You're not really playing against each other. I think that's quite key. You're never really playing against each other in that game. You're just in the game building a community. But there's an argument to be made that, all right, well, what happens if we put a community-driven game with a versus component, with a component where they're kind of playing against each other? And I think there's a potential for that to be one of the growing trends into 2025. Obviously, within the market itself, it is a very saturated market. So you've got to look at a new thing like social and maybe something new and innovative that people haven't seen before, and try to tap into this idea and understanding that you will be taking a risk, but potentially creating the next best thing. It's something that we're always pushing for. Here at Gaming Corps, we have next year, going into 2025, we've got like a two-pronged strategy essentially, where there will be some games which are just classic, you run-of-the-mill, hold and win style games, really just ensure that base level of foundation, and then you've got really innovative new stuff that hasn't been seen before. We're hopeful that it's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way.
Or as you said, it's a very saturated market.
Yeah,
many providers out there. What make games from Gaming Corp stand out, considering there are so many games out there for players to choose from? Why should players give the games in your portfolio a go, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we get asked this a lot as whenever we're speaking to customers, like, why should we push your games over other people's? And I will say for a fact that the people creating the games at Gaming Corps are extremely passionate about what we do. We are gamblers as well at heart, and so the games that are being created are created by players. We're creating games by players, for players. We always want to create the next best thing. We want to create the highest quality of product. You wouldn't see a Gaming Corps release which would be subpar in terms of polish or quality, or have like bugs in it which could detriment the player experience. So we always want to create like the best game in that sense. And at the end of the day, I think we are still a company which is creating something for everybody. There's providers out there who will be targeting a specific niche and a specific demographic of players, and if you've played one of their games and you didn't like it, you might not want to play their future games because of the fact that you just know that you're not their target demographic. Whereas at Gaming Corps, with our different verticals, I think you can definitely be rest assured, like, there's going to be at least one game you love. It might not be this slot game, but it might be this Mines product. It might be that football Mines game rather than that Egyptian slot, you know? So that's completely different. So what I would say to any player who hasn't necessarily taken a chance on our games yet is to just give it a go, because it might not be like anything you've played before. It's going to be potentially a completely different vertical that you haven't seen or played. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Can you discuss any particular game that have been really successful for Gaming Corps, and what do you think made that game so popular?
So I think we've had like a few like big successes which you would definitely be really happy with. One of which is like Penalty Champion. It's a Mines product, and that Mines product is where you're trying to score a goal essentially against the goalkeeper, and as you score goals, your multiplier will increase and you can decide to cash out. If the goalkeeper saves the goal, then you will lose your winnings. That game in particular took our very successful existing Mines product math model and basically just reskinned it with this like a really fun dynamic gameplay of trying to beat the goalkeeper. So that game's one of our very successful games. I think it's very popular because it just feels like a natural video game. It's definitely targeting that sort of millennial target market. And then you've got in our other our Smash for Cash genre, we've got a game called Piggy Smash. Piggy Smash was our first entrance into this kind of what we call Smash for Cash. And that game, like, it just completely blew us away when it was released in January this year. The numbers were really strong, but in particular, what we look at is like the average rounds per player. And the average rounds per player is a metric which gives us so much understanding about how much that player actually loved that game. If you're staying there for on average 120, 150 rounds, you've had a lot of entertainment value out of that game. If you stuck there only for 20, 30 rounds, then your entertainment value for that game is obviously a lot lower. You'd obviously expect the other metrics, such as revenue, to be higher if the average spins are higher as well. But it allows us to go to our other partners who haven't necessarily put the game live yet and just say, look, this game's getting a high number of rounds per player. We recommend you put it live. And it's one of those metrics which is really important. So Penalty Champion, really strong. Piggy Smash and Smash for Cash Fund were really strong. In the slot space, we've had, in particular this year, a couple of really good releases, games that have broken our like 1 week records and stuff like that. One of which is 777 Jackpot Diamond Hold and Win Deluxe. It's a very classic game, targets that older demographic. The gameplay, the math is so strong that players just keep coming back. But we've also got very innovative titles, such as Egypt Bonus Pot, which has done very well this year. A game which had a very high number of average rounds per player. I think it was our record in the first week for average number of rounds per player. And yeah, overall, just a very polished Egyptian, very modern slot game, which when you look at it and you're like, it feels like almost futuristic in the way that it's been designed. It's kind of timeless. If you play it in 2030, it should still look good. It's got that sort of quality level.
Yeah. And you talked about the metrics there, average rounds per player. Yeah. Do you have any other metrics you track to measure the success for a game?
So we'll obviously be tracking things like number of players, which is very important because it shows that the players have actually been willing to click on it. And that's something which comes down to like the game name and the theme that you've chosen and maybe the thumbnail as well, very important components of the game, which don't really get talked about much. So everyone always talks about the mechanics and the math and ensuring that's all right. But at the end of the day, if players don't click on your game and press spin, then that game is not going to be a successful game. So I think a very important metric is how many players have clicked on your game, basically. And even if they just played it once, at least they clicked it. And getting them through the door is the first and most important hurdle. And then we've obviously got points that are like average GGR per player. So not necessarily the average spins per player, but if they are betting with a higher bet value or if they are using more anti-bets or bonus buys, then their average GGR per player should be higher. So that in tandem with average bets per player is really important to understand how good the game is or how popular it is.
Nice. And I think if you can show us some of Gaming Corp's games and just discuss the technology and mechanics behind them. If you can. Yeah.
So I'll start sharing my screen.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm going to show two games. So one game is Snoop's High Rollers. Snoop's High Rollers was our recent release with global superstar Snoop Dogg. Takes on a very high volatility game, targeting the sort of high roller streamer sort of player. And then I'm also going to show you a game which we're launching in November called Wet Wild Beavers, which is a very innovative, forward-thinking game, which hopefully you've not seen anything like it before.
Yeah, so, I like the name. It's provocative. Yeah,
it's actually got a fair few people go, "Oh, I like the name there." All right, so let me just close some tabs a minute.
Yep.
All right, so this is Snoop's High Rollers. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant. So yeah, this game was done originally in collaboration with Roobet. And Roobet are the casino who have a partnership with Snoop Dogg. So through our collaboration with Roobet, we were able to work with Snoop Dogg and Snoop Dogg's team. So let's see. Hopefully this does work. Just had a bit of a bug. So yeah, right. In this game, we have a very, in my opinion, highly polished, modern, sleek-looking game. So I would say it's the target market skews demographically towards the millennial sort of age because of that sort of polish. The game in itself is a 5-reel slot machine, 3 symbols high on the first and the 5th reel, but in the middle reels there's 4 symbols, so that gives the player extra ways to win, essentially. In this game, you can get what's known as a high roller spin, where what will happen is a random president will get selected and Snoop Dogg will land, and Snoop Dogg will smoke up with the different presidents, the president that has specifically been selected, and then the presidents will all have their own multiplier on them, and that multiplier will get added, and then if you've got a winning combination, that multiplier gets added to the win. You can see already maybe how this is a slightly more complex game than your average fruit slot machine. Again, that was so that we could target maybe a younger demographic when we created this game originally. So yeah, you can trigger this feature, and if, like in this example, if we landed this president, we would have got the ×2 multipliers adding up. Obviously, we're playing at random, so anything could happen really. But yeah, so that's like the base game feature. So Snoop is active in the base game, lands quite frequently, and then we've got the free spins feature, which you can access via a bonus buy. I will just trigger it normally for now because the bonus buy is not active. I'm in the UK, and my link that I've got here doesn't have the bonus buy. But yeah, you trigger the free spins, and within the free spins round, the objective is to collect these scatter symbols to unlock future presidents to get multiplied. So at the start of the round, we only have 1 president unlocked, but the kind of objective is to keep unlocking more and more. And then here, Snoop will smoke up with the president and get a winning combination, gets multiplied. We've also got a scatter to collect. So this gameplay's got layers to it. It's got a reason to return. You won't always get to the end over the course of your 7 spins, but there's a chance that you will progress. And if you don't, hopefully you would want to come back to see what might happen should you get all the way to unlocking this final president and unlocking that super bonus.
Yeah.
So yeah, this game overall was released originally back in April as an exclusive with Roobet, and then we launched with our general market at the start of this month. And yeah, we've seen a good player response, I would say, to this game, and it's kind of putting us a bit more on the radar for people who didn't necessarily know Gaming Corps. They obviously, most people will know Snoop Dogg, and even if you don't listen to his music, you still know of him, and that's kind of given us that extra advantage within the market. There's also a chance to get the super scatter, and that super scatter means that you've triggered the super bonus. And within this free spins feature, the super scatter will essentially unlock all the way to the final president, and every single president now will be having a multiplier value attached, and every single time Snoop lands, it'll smoke up with every single president. And the beauty of this is now that the multiplier is also sticky. So the multiplier being sticky increases the potential and increases the volatility of this game massively.
And do you don't have a bonus buy in UK? Is it not legal?
Yes, yeah. So it's not. We don't have it in the UK. So some of our testing environments will know that I'm based in the UK, and because I'm based in the UK, we'll make sure that the bonus buy feature is disabled. By default. So I need to have a specific link available, which I do have. I just didn't I accidentally clicked on the wrong link before I got here. But yeah, in the UK, it's just outright not allowed. I don't necessarily know if that's for the players' benefit or not. I think there can be games which have very rare free spins features, where maybe you've experienced it once and you don't necessarily feel like you need to play through 400 spins or whatever to trigger the bonus yourself naturally. I feel like you should have the option to purchase the bonus.
Yeah.
Just like a shortcut, essentially.
Yeah, I really like that element as well. What do you consider to be important elements in a slots game? If you talk about high roller, is it something you wanted to be added, or what are the critical elements, do you think?
Yeah, I think things that enhance the player's experience and give multiple options for the players to play how they want to play is the most important thing. Is essentially giving the player the choice.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own free will to do what they want to do with their own money, and therefore they should be able to play the game how they want to be played. And if the provider ourselves are offering different ways to play the game, then those should be available to all the players rather than being kind of prevented. It's just, so things like bonus buy and things like this, a little bit anti-bets. So like anti-bets where you can enable it, you can increase your stake. In this game, it increases it by 25%, but you get a double chance to win free spins. I think that's just quite a nice feature. You don't have to enable it if you don't want to, but enabling it can give a player a better experience for them personally. And I think that's quite important to give these options. Yeah. So it's the same with like having the music enabled and disabled. If I don't give the player that option, then they're going to have an experience which they don't feel like is best for them. So yeah, when it comes to the anti-bet and the big win, we give the player all the information before they purchase it, before they're entering these modes. They can make a decision themselves whether they continue.
Yeah, and today many players, they play from their phones. How do you optimize a game like this to the phone, for the phone?
Yeah. So I can just quickly show how it look in mobile. So yeah, you got an iPhone 12. You can make it a smaller screen. So, oh wait, will it make it a smaller screen? Not sure if it will or not. Probably not, because I've already clicked on it. But yeah, so essentially the game in itself will be developed for what we call mobile first. So the game assets that get created, the mock-ups for animations, the front-end development will all be created specifically for mobile. And they'll be optimized in a way which allows players to really get the best experience on mobile when it comes to load times and symbol quality and etc. etc. One thing that's really important for us when it comes to mobile is to ensure that the screen, the reels are as big as they can possibly be. So here you might see the difference between playing it on desktop versus playing it on mobile portrait. It might feel like you're a bit more zoomed in, but the reality is if this was a bit zoomed out, allowing you to see more of the pretty background on the right and the left-hand side, then you're not going to be able to see the symbols. So it's very important for us to ensure that the game kind of suits the device that it's on, and maybe forgoes having a very pretty background for having a more zoomed in reels. Mobile first is definitely something which we prioritize here at Gaming Corps, and something that we'll continue to prioritize going forward. I think the majority of our players are playing on mobile. At the end of the day, I've seen stats now ranging from 80 to 85% of players are playing on mobile, and then 70 to 75% of those players who are already playing on mobile playing it on mobile portrait. So yeah, it's definitely something which we want to keep at the front of our minds when we're developing our products.
Yeah. And this was, and this game was global launch now in October, you said, 3rd, I think. What?
Yes,
Yeah.
October 3rd.
Yeah.
And not all casinos would put this game live because of the theme. We felt like when it came to creating a game with Snoop, it was important for us to use this theme to the best of our creative ability. Some casinos have not put it live because of that reason, whereas some casinos have really got behind it, particularly like in the US sweeps market. And yeah, the players' reaction has been really positive. Everybody seems to enjoy playing this game. It's got a really good soundtrack. It's got voiceovers that are from Snoop himself. So yeah, it's a really authentic game.
Yeah. And what was it? One more game you wanted to show, Connor? Also,
Yes.
yeah.
So I also want to show you this game, which is it's called Wet Wild Beavers, and it's a game which is part of our strategy going forward is to create slot games which are known as AAA slot games. AAA in like classic gaming world of like Xbox and PlayStation and PC usually just they mean a higher level of quality. It means usually it's been created with a much higher budget, with more people, with a longer production time, and an overall quality that could be considered higher. For us, with the way that we develop games, I can imagine these games are going to be slightly more expensive to produce in terms of like the timelines for us. But once we've got one or two under our belt, the way that we develop our games with the modularization and creating every game is created and made up of multiple different modules. Let me just put this in the background. So every game, like this game, is created in different components, and the next time we use this mechanic, we'll be able to plug and play from this game the different sorts of mechanics. So if I discuss a little bit about this game, we've got this new mechanic called a mazecades. And a mazecades is something which we've kind of called this mechanic of the grid flowing through this sort of maze, cascading through it as well. So you'll see on every single spin, we start with a beaver in the top right-hand corner. And the objective is to get that beaver to the bottom left corner. And I think hopefully within a couple spins, you'll start to understand the objective of doing exactly that. I shouldn't have to explain that to people when they're playing the game themselves, because they will play it, they'll see the winds happening, and they'll see the beaver starting to move. This mechanic in itself is completely new. There was a similar game created by a competitor where you had to get an object to the center of the grid. That game had a different way of like paying out as well. Whereas Wet Wild Beavers, the way it pays out is the pay lines from left to right. And the pay lines paying from left to right is very traditional, very classic. Everybody knows that that's how slot games pay out. If you have to ask the average person, how does it pay? They would probably say left to right, top to bottom, or 50 pay lines, 10 pay lines, whatever. So it's quite intuitive immediately. And so within this game, you've got the objective of getting the beaver to the exit. Beaver usually gets to the exit relatively frequently. I think it's like 1 in every 12, 13 spins. So we're getting a bit unlucky here. What I'll do is I'll enable the hot bet. The hot bet gives a triple chance to win the free spins, but also guarantees the beaver landing in the middle. So you'll see the icon flashes, beaver lands in the middle guaranteed. So we've already progressed the grid about halfway through. With the beaver also being a wild symbol, the frequency of wins has also increased because that beaver's in the middle. So hopefully we will progress and I'll be able to show you. Might have to cut between. But yeah, once the beaver gets to the exit, every single beaver, you'll see there's a red, there's a yellow, and there's a blue beaver, and all of those beavers have different features associated with them, and the different features will sort of be helping the grid move towards the exit. So the blue beaver, for example, will remove symbols in a cross formation, and once they remove those symbols, more beavers are likely to come through and also get collected. And if we collect all 3 beavers in a single spin, then we'll trigger the free spins feature.
Mhm.
Oh, and we got that. There's a special feature as well. If the beaver lands on the left reel, there's a chance that it will just swim straight to the exit and help you out. Collected the yellow beaver, triggers the combo clear, should remove between 2 and 3 symbols.
Mhm.
Remove them and then add some wilds as well to hopefully continue with the cascades. So yeah, like something entirely new. Like I've said on this call a few times, we're definitely trying to push the innovation in 2025. Well, starting with this game in 2024, but more so in 2025, we're really trying to create something new. Yes, it's a bit riskier, but the business strategy behind it is rooted in like the sort of the target markets and all of that is still being built for this game. Like, it's not like we're just saying, okay, the idea is to create something brand new that no one's ever seen before. That's not what we're saying. It's like the idea is to create something brand new that no one's seen before, but also it's rooted in this market research. It's targeting this sort of player. So this will actually be a really big one for Scandinavia, Sweden. It is sort of targeting that that younger player in those markets who are more willing to give something new a try. So the theme in itself is a bit, well, it's a bit Canadian, obviously, with the beavers, but the sort of nature is something which is really popular in Scandinavia, and the slots that they play, there's lots of animal themes. So yeah, we're quietly confident about this game, which launches in November. So
And as you said, you have the mechanics now and the technology, and you can change the skin to let's say a moose or an elephant or
exactly. So the development for this one has been longer than our usual development. That's due to like a couple of like teething issues that we've had on the game. We are a small team at the end of the day, so things have to be shifted and reprioritized regularly. But this game, now it has been created, like you say, the next time we do this, and now that we've coined this term amazecades, the next time we do an amazecades product, I suspect that the development time will be halved.
Yeah.
That's just the nature and the beauty of our modularization when we're developing our games, that we can kind of reuse aspects of the game. So yeah, really confident for this one and the future of this sort of genre of slot games.
Yeah. So amazecades, you can say, is like Smash for cash. It's a kind of new mechanic to build
exactly.
on.
So it's a new mechanic. It builds brand awareness. It's very important for us at the moment as Gaming Corps, where we are, and we recognize that we are not that top provider. We're not there. So the way to get that is to build that brand recognition. Okay, who are Gaming Corps? Gaming Corps are Smash for Cash. Gaming Corps are amazecades. Gaming Corps have these specific game types which become synonymous with the brand, essentially. And I should hope that now, if players are familiar with Smash for Cash, they'll also be familiar with familiar with Gaming Corps, and therefore they might try out a different Gaming Corps game.
Yeah.
Building that brand loyalty, really.
Yeah, and these mechanics have been really successful for some competitors to you, and made their brand stand out, like Big Time Gaming and Megaways and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're definitely always looking at the market and being inspired by the likes of those sorts of companies. So when Big Time Gaming did Megaways, that was a while back now, but it's still a very popular mechanic. You know who created the original one. Same with like a No Limit City when they create their different X mechanics that they have, and then you've got Elk, which do the like different mechanics like the collector, and they've got some other interesting ways of cascading their games and stuff like that. So yeah, like absolutely, I think it's really important for us to look at what is being successful and how these companies are building their brands and going like, all right, well, it's really important for us to be innovative and different, but at the end of the day, following that strategy that they followed to get more players to their games at the end of the day is tried and tested now, and it works really well. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're always keeping an eye on.
Yeah. And when was the release date of this game? Is it set, or is it November? Yes, then is it global or exclusive?
So it goes exclusive with partners on the 7th of November. Yeah. And then it goes live with all of our customers, or the majority of our customers, on the 21st of November. We're currently in the final phases of production where we are polishing the timings and making sure everything's nice and smooth. It's already looking pretty good, but just that final touch. And also going through the certification phase. So the game will get sent to, well, it has been sent to test labs, and those test labs will be testing the math and also testing all of the features to make sure it's compliant in all of our markets. That's quite a long process of about 4 weeks. But in the meantime, we can still continue like developing it and ensuring that everything's polished and stuff like that.
Yeah. Can you buy the free spins in this game and show us? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me do it. So I'll just wait for this spin to play out. So the free spins can be bought in 2 ways. You can either buy the bonus regularly, which costs 80 times your bet, or you can buy the bonus, what's called the super bonus, which is 140 times your bet.
Yeah.
Basically, the super bonus starts off with 6 spins, and the regular bonus will start off with 4 spins.
Okay.
We might keep going. Oh, we might even trigger the free spins, like naturally, which is really fun. That's the great thing about this game. It feels like it's there more so as an entertainment product. It's definitely rooted in player behaviors in gambling, but at the end of the day, this is something which, in my opinion, is very entertaining to play. It's not just it's not just your average slot. It's very, very different. It feels more like a video game in a way. Yeah, so we actually should trigger it. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's happening a lot of stuff all the time, and I think that's my preference when playing.
Yeah. You're the Scandinavian player that we're targeting with this product.
Yeah, great job done.
So the round's finished. We got a big win, which is nice. And also the beauty is we have triggered the free spins. So this is just the normal free spins that we've triggered. We can start it, which I will start it. Actually, no, I'll gamble it, and then if we lose the gamble, I'll buy the bonus. Yep. So you either win 4 free spins, which you can start. Gambling can result in no free spins. Important disclaimer: if you gamble it, you can lose the free spins, but if you win it, you will get +2 free spins. So let's gamble. Let's see if we get it. Get a wheel presented to you. Wheel spins. We should win. Okay, right, we've won. So we get +2 free. So we start with 6 instead of 4. So that's just a nice addition. And the objective essentially is, so on every non-winning spin, the reels will flood and you'll get random wilds added to the grid. So that should help you win. And for every single time you collect all 3 beavers, you will re-trigger the bonus. You'll get +4 free spins, and your beavers will have a higher multiplier. So you see right now they all start with ×1. When you re-trigger it, they'll all start with ×2. And when they all start with ×2, it means that your winning potential is obviously a lot higher. Every single pay line will be multiplied by ×2. You've got this total round multiplier as well here. And that total round multiplier will apply to all the wins as well. So right now it's ×1, but this progression will maintain between spins.
Yeah.
We're going to get this beaver now. So hopefully now it's starting to create up this sort of domino effect of wins and domino effect of collecting beavers. So let's see how this goes. This game in itself is definitely highly inspired by what's popular at the moment on the market. Like you look at there's a lot of games, if you look from maybe like Relax or Elk or sometimes less so No Limit, but like definitely like Relax and stuff. Like they have these games where they tie like an animal to like a real world sort of, what's we call it, like job role or something like that, whether it be beavers who are construction workers like in this game, or like giraffes who are like casino players. Like it's a really fun narrative. And then when you look at like the game round and the way it plays, in my opinion, it can be considered most similar to things like Pyrots and stuff like that, where it's just a bit different, like you haven't seen it before. And we're very hopeful for this one, so fingers crossed. So yeah, that's kind of the free spins. I'm sure this round will play out. We might re-trigger it, we might not. It's the nature of it, I guess. It's relatively a high volatility game. It's like an 8 out of 10 on our volatility scale. So yeah, it can really explode. We were speaking to an affiliate recently who was playing the game, and they had a session which got them like 1,000 times their bet. The free spins went on for like, I think like over 10 minutes, which is a bit crazy, but it's definitely there for your entertainment.
Yeah, and every time you win, that meter or it fills up, or how does
exactly.
it work?
Yeah. So every time you win, what you'll see is in this bottom left corner, the symbol will get like sucked up into it. So hang on, let's try to get a win a minute. We're gonna like not get a win apparently. Well, all right, we should get a win now. Yeah, the game only has a 1 in 3 hit rate, so to get a couple non-winning spins in a row is a bit harsh. So yeah, you'll see get a winning combination, and the bottom left symbol here will get sucked in.
Yep.
And then increase this meter. Also, the log symbols will also get sucked in, like just for free.
Okay.
So yeah, there's layers to this game where you might start playing it and you might go, oh, I've got a good understanding of it, but there's just extra nuances. They all flow really nicely. That you never have to stop and understand it because it's all just happening. But yeah, it really gives that extra, hopefully, like replay value for the player.
Yeah, a good way to engage the players more. It's happening a lot of different things, and yeah.
Well, we're inspired like greatly as well, like by like the play and go grid slots of the day, like React Tunes and the likes of those sorts of games, where the game rounds might be slightly longer in general, but the reason to return and the replay value should be much higher.
Yeah.
So that's this game, Wet Wild Beavers and Maze Kids.
Yeah, great, Connor, and thank you very much for this interview and your insights in the business in general.
Oh yeah, no problem. Like, honestly, thanks for having me. Happy to have these calls and really, really enjoy speaking not only to yourself but also our player base, our investors, our customers. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.